Chadash. Ibane Hamikdash v'sham nashir shir Chadash. Geula is tasting newness. It's tasting newness. Hashem. So we're at page 241 in this book, in the Piece Chushari Alev. And Shlomo right now is making an absolutely amazing transition between a story that we ended off with last week of the simplest act of a Jew. Of course, nothing is simple, but a Jew just giving 10 rubles, everything he had, for the talis, for a chassan, that the chassan shouldn't be embarrassed and he should have the strength to go to the chuppah because he was worried what's going to come Shabbos, I won't have a talis. And this Jew, a tailor who was really, had a difficult life, did not come to shul and wasn't so observant, and Pinchas Kartzer knocked on his door, and he was so amazed that the Rebbe came to his house and I'm collecting for a talis, and we need 10 rubles. He gave one, then he ran after him into the street and caught him and said, listen, if I give you the whole 10, do you think I'll have a place in the next world? Because he was so sure that there was nothing, he had never done anything real his whole life.
It's called low self-esteem.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
it's not just only low self-esteem, like he really was not such a, he really was living, he knew he was living a life of making bad choices often. And the Rebbe said to him, absolutely. And he gave these 10 rubles, and we saw last week this whole unbelievable story about his funeral and so on. Now, Reb Shlomo transitions straight into something completely mamish. It's the same underlying concept. It's the same underlying concept, but it's at a much higher degree of sophistication, a much higher degree of this is like laser eye surgery. This is like neuroscience. This is like this next level he's talking about with Pinchas, what Pinchas did. Pinchas' act of chesed, slaying Zimri and Cosby, is one of the most difficult parshas in the Chumash. And he goes straight from this simple yid paying for the talis way up into the stratosphere of Pinchas's act of chesed. Right? Sam says, I'm going to give him brisi shalom. I'm giving Pinchas my covenant of peace. What Pinchas did, Gewalt, and it's very, very profound. And mamish a whole, high-level issue. Zimri was the prince of the tribe of Shimon, and he was a very high person, and he had a whole plan by marrying Cosby. There was we're going to discuss this, and Pinchas came in and violently interrupted this plan. And if someone's saying this is an act of love, this is like, this is a Jew reaching out to do the right thing. Mamish far out. So let's see inside how he puts it. And I want to tell you something very, very deep. Holy Ari says that Cosby Bastur, who was the princess, the Midianite princess, right? He mamish bat zugo shel Zimri ben Salu. She was absolutely and completely the soulmate of Zimri. Completely mamish the soulmate, 100% soulmate. That complicates things, right? Zimri ben Salu alala shamayim. When Zimri went up to heaven after he was killed by Pinchas, Pinchas, who Amari Bon Shalala, said he had a taina. He had a argument. to present to the heavenly court. I heard the announcement in heaven, Shekozbi Batsur, he Batsugi, that this Midianite princess is Mamish Mai Batzuk. Right? The Midrashim are bringing that they were arguing and saying, look, Moshe Rabbeinu married a Midianite woman. Moshe Tzipora was Midianite, right? Fine. And Amrulo, and so what did they say? What did they answer Zimri in Shammai? What did they answer him? Aval Mayim Shar B'nai Yisrael. But what will happen to the rest of Am Yisrael? When they see you going with Kazi Batsur, they won't understand that you had this high kavana. They will not search for their soulmate because they'll think that you just went after the veneer of beauty of the Midianite women. That I added in. He doesn't say that. They won't look for their soulmate. Probably that's what he means. So the Ishbitzer Rebbe in here, Shlomo's going deep. This is a very deep sugya, and really, we could mamish sit for hours and hours, weeks and weeks on what the Ishbitzer says, what the Beis Yaakov says, what the grandson of Sod Yesharim says. And Shlomo's just cutting through like tons of Torah over here. And I didn't. I'm coming from a Shabbaton and I'm rebounding from pneumonia. I would have been. I'm going to tell you, outside of what we see from Shlomo, some Torah, particularly from the grandson, from the Radziner, the one who found the tchelis, the blue that the Breslovers wear, is because one of the great Breslover Chassidim, Rav Breiter, met Rav Leiner. His name was Gershon Chanach Henech Leiner, Radzin. They met in Poland, and he was all excited about the tchelis, and they got excited about it too because they had a Masorah from Rabbi Nachman that tchelis was going to be found before Mashiach comes, and so if you go to Meir Sharim, you see many of the Breslovers are wearing the Radziner tchelis. Nowadays, they found something that seems possibly even more correct. Who knows? But who knows what's right and what's, there's the Hasidic tchelis, there's the scientific tchelis, and so on and so forth. But in any case, the Radziner, I'm going to tell you over a bit from him, but let's just see how Reb Shlomo puts it. And here's about the Radziner's grandfather, Reb Mordechai Yosef Me'ishbitz, then Reb Yaakov. The Pinchas was not right in what he did. That the truth is, it was not correct that he killed Zimri. Aval Pinchas Amar, but what was he saying to himself? It's unbelievable the contrast, how he goes from the Yid with the talis straight to this. Like incredible. Aval Pinchas Amar, Ribbon Shalom, Ani Muchan Lasot Davar Lo Tava Achshav. I'm ready to do something that's wrong right now. Kedei Shekol Bnei Yisrael Yedu Ad Sof Kol Adoro Shelo Osim Ma Shezimri Ben Saul Asa. So that Am Yisrael will know for all generations that it's wrong to do what Zimri ben Salah was doing. Klomar, that is to say, Zimri ben Salah rotzeh lasot davar tov. Zimri ben Salah wanted to do something good. Aval hu horeset Am Yisrael, but he's destroying Am Yisrael through doing that good. Pinchas yodea shehu oseh davar lo nachon. Pinchas knows he's doing something not right. Aval geval tu matzilot Am Yisrael. And yet, with that wrong thing, he's saving all of Am Yisrael. Continue with Shlomo, and I'll say it more in a minute. LePinchas haya barur. To Pinchas, it was clear. She'im hu yarog Zimri ben Salu was clear to him. If he goes and kills Zimri ben Salu, he didn't think he's going to get some big reward. He thought he's going to mamish go down. He'll have done something wrong, mamish. Who kanirei yahareg b'dei shevet Shimon? Probably the tribe of Shimon will have him killed. Vaya barur lo shu yared l'geinom was clear to him he's going to go to hell. Sharein lo shum schus harog Zimri ben Salu because he had no right to do that, to do this, to kill Zimri. Aval Pinchas muchan lamut, but he was ready to die in this world and the next. Lared genom leman am Yisrael, for the sake of Am Yisrael. And that's why the pasuk says, "V'heshiv es chamasim al bnei Yisrael," that Hashem says, "I will take my anger." He took my anger off of Am Yisrael, and I'm giving him my bris shalom. It's a couple of weeks from now, still Pinchas, but he says, I'm giving him my covenant of peace because he returned. He took off my anger from upon Am Yisrael. He fixed all of Am Yisrael for all generations. Scharo shel Pinchas Hayah, his reward was, and behold, I'm giving him my covenant of peace. So Masvir Zohar Kodesh, the Zohar is explaining, that he's the one who's going to tell Am Yisrael about the coming of Mashiach, because Pinchas is the same soul as Eliyahu. You would think, Shadam Shochel Chalav Yisrael, when he's gotten kosher, V'lo Mitariyim V'layla, who should be the person to tell us about Mashiach coming? The person who's totally, careful and eats only glat and super frum and Aval Pinchas, but that Pinchas is the one. He's the one who's going to tell us that Mashiach is coming. Lo yaman, not to be believed. This idea, I want to just look a little deeper into this idea of what Rav Shlomo is saying, that he did something wrong, but it was really generationally and like eternally right. And Zimri and Cosby wanted to do something right, but it was eternally wrong. And as a result of this, he becomes the Mevaser HaGeula. So the grandson, the Heilig Sod Yesharim, he explains it like this, and it really lights up what Rav Shlomo is saying. He says like this, the unbelievable thing. We've been learning this year a lot about Eliyahu Navi Baruch Hashem. Mamish great Torahs from Temvara Naim, and for the Sod Yesharim also gives us a very important klal about Eliyahu Navi. It's from the Zohar also, that this idea that we each have a spark of Eliyahu Navi in us, very, very real, very, very much in the Zohar. We learned that how also it goes all the way back to the creation of birds, that the flapping of wings and the swooping in, that quality of swooping in on the fifth day of creation, the Zohar says, Da Eliyahu, that was Eliyahu, that was already the soul. To swoop in and give someone good news, to swoop in and be there and be a connector. And it's in us. And the Zohar says what this means, what it's called in the Zohar is this language called kusta d'chiyusa, a little spark, ember of life energy. And the Sod Yesharim says, what is this life energy about? Chaim. Chaim. Says, what is this life energy about? This is an unbelievable thing. It says, you know how amazing it is? And I'm paraphrasing, but you know how amazing it is to wake up in the morning and still remember who you are, right? To remember who you are. It's a chiddush. It's not to be taken for granted, That thing, you could call it a little bit, I like to also call it poetically like the narrator of the soul. This part of you that holds it together, like when you say to someone, like, keep it real, or that guy, or that girl, she's really holding it together. What does that mean? It means she's connected to the kusta d'chiyusa, connected to this thing of Eliyahu Navi, and he illustrates this from a Gemara in Masechet Nida, I think it is. It says that when Tchias HaMesim happens, when the revival of the dead happens, are we going to be revived with our blemishes, or are we going to be revived like perfect? And the Gemara says, for sure, we're going to be revived with our mumim, with our blemishes. And then Hashem will heal us. And he explains it because it's very important. He says, because otherwise, and I'm paraphrasing, it would be Leibish 2.0. It would just be like this other thing that isn't connected back with this kusta d'chiyusa, back to the whole story of the saga of Leibish. It has to be. Otherwise, if it's just, I have to come back with all my issues and then heal, right? If I come back already fixed, it's not me anymore. It's already this perfect thing, but right, the great healing, the great fixing is not erasing everyone out and making these perfect versions of them. That's not like what Mashiach is about, right? Is that you actually heal. There's actually a resolution, a resolving, like musically, back to the tonal, or to something a little like, whatever it is, but something that is keeping it real, something that's keeping it together, not a a completely different thing than like what everything up until now was like, forget about it. And like the whole yofi is exactly not that. The whole yofi is nafaychu. The whole yofi is that our beauty was our strength is the fact that we persevered. And our blemishes are part of our tchias hamesim. That's part of the tchias hamesim. And then mavish. It's so important. By the way, the name Mem Vav Mem is one of the 3-letter names of Hashem. And you're supposed to mechaven it every morning in Birkas HaMa'oros. Yotzer Meshartim Vasher Mesharsav. Meshartim Vasher Mesharsav Mem Vav Mem. His servants and that his servants, right? We're Hashem's servants. And Gevalt, we're blemished. We have mum. We have like crazy things that we can't imagine ever fixing. Like crazy problems, And afal pichein, the whole yofi is that afal pichein, that imkozeh, we're still moving forward with our mum, with these blemishes that seem insurmountable. We can't imagine how they'll ever be fixed. Part of one of the names of Hashem. Incredible. Hashem is right there with us, giving us koach, right there in that place of the mum. So the inyan of the kusta de chiyusa, this spark of Eliyahu Navi, because again, to tell you that Mashiach is coming, it can't be that that you get fried, that your brain gets fried, and then we have to make a Leibish 2.0 to tell you to shoehorn the Messiah. It's got to be that they can talk to you and it's real and it's really for you and it's really for each of us. It's got to be the way that it gets announced. The MC of Mashiach has to know how to like vibe in with all of the souls and really help them get there. It's really a big deal. It's not just like a snap, it's it's a thing. It's like a intro. It's a setting of a tone. It's a whole thing, Chaim.
Hearing the common thread
Yeah.
from the swooping in,
Yeah,
and the 5th day, and the hafraza, and this with the preserving the continuity between like the quote unquote the blemished self or the damaged self, and then the restored or the renewed or healed self.
yeah.
The Indian is time. It has to be continuity through time. And in terms of healing, also, you could say the question is, does time heal by itself? Is time the healer? I mean, you say Hashem is the healer, but Hashem is the healer not like through time, within time. Solutions, resolutions, they manifest within time itself. So it's not like a snap of a finger, and then you're just, and then everything's perfect, and there's no continuity between your former self and your current self. It has to be a process through time. So time is like the connector, and that's that's what it means to swoop in, is kind of like to segue as opposed to just cut off and then start a new piece.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's very interesting, this thing of Zman. It's also
people say, I mean, there's like a trope almost that like, well, time heals.
Right.
But time doesn't, it's not really is it really the time that's healing, or is the fact that time is moving the story of life along?
Yes.
And new things are like emerging.
Yeah, exactly. If you spend the whole time just binging on some drug or alcohol or internet or whatever, you may not heal. Like there needs to be some facing the music, a process,
Yeah.
right? But that does happen within time. Yeah, Hannah.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by what we're talking about today. And something just occurred to me about this idea of, soulmates, like you mentioned in this particular story.
Mhm.
So as an energy healer, what we often see is when people come together and they have a connection, like us, like shidduch or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's, if you have unresolved issues, then it could be, let's call it a karmic connection. Okay. And then you're coming together to do some unfinished business. And if you do that work together, or if you heal that issue, then the people can actually, then they can be finished with the work. And sometimes you see people, like they break off an engagement and whatever.
Mhm.
And then they go on and then they find their real bashert.
Wow.
So it can happen with people who are divorced. You came together with your first marriage and you had work to do and you resolved that. And then you go your separate ways, you do healing, and then you connect with somebody else. So I'm just kind of wondering if this so-called soul connection that they had this other purpose, which all these lessons that we're taking from the example,
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't like, oh, they were supposed to be like happily ever after. Maybe not. Maybe they came together with a soul connection, but for this other purpose.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking
Well, definitely is teaching all of us a lesson, and the psukim in the Torah are so precious, and yeah, I think it's very related what you're saying. Let me say more from the Radziner, and we'll see how it fits. So the Reb Gershon Chanech ben Reb Yaakov Miradzin he says like this. He says that a person can, you may have seen people or you may have experienced this a bit yourself, you can get into spiritual teachings, but to a point where you start to lose yourself, where it becomes, like, one way of putting it is that it becomes like abstract and not something within you. Like, for instance, Reb Simcha Bunim of Pshisch, he once wrote a letter to the son of the Apter saying, because the son of the Apter was coming out with Chasidus that was based a lot in gematrias and letters and this whole kind of Kabbalistic scientific thing. And he said, but wait, the halacha is that you can say the Shema in Polish. Shema b'chol lashon she'ta shomea. The Gemara darshans, you can be Yotzei Kriya Shema in any language. You can fulfill the mitzvah of the Shema in any language. So what happens to all your gematrias, right? He asked him this. Now, what he was really asking him, and Rav Simcha Bunim was interesting in this way, he was a little bit of a iconoclast in this way, pushing against a sort of what do you call it? Like where the Chasidus itself was getting a little stale, yeah, a little bit out of touch,
mainstream,
whatever. Well, for him it was losing authenticity, he felt. And so meaning to say, if you really know what the gematrias and what the Kabbalah is saying, you know what it means on the inside. All of those symbols out there, the numbers and letters and so on, they're talking about deep inner experiences. That's what they really are. And all those things, if you make those outside symbols about Avodas Hashem, the Iker, then you've lost touch with your own actual self and experience. And it's just this this outer abstracted letter and number game, kind of. Is making sense? Have you ever gone down that road or seen someone who really goes down, they're like, whoa, and the numbers, and they fit like this, and if you do this, and if you go at the right time, if you can stay up all night, and then you can really lose, you can mamish lose yourself. It's
No, my mind just starts ignoring.
good. Yeah, okay. But you know what I mean? You know, this phenomenon is out there, right?
Yes,
There's
yes.
now again, Zimri ben Salu, and you have to be careful because it's not just like your average weirdo Kabbalist, you know, like they were very high people, and yet Pinchas could sense that they were making this mistake, that they had figured out, yes, that her soul and his soul were uniquely suited for each other. They'd figured this out. But what's that?
Many, at least a few such similar things in Leibish, right?
Mhm.
With David.
Batsheva.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Each one is its own story. In economy, there's a lot of far out stuff. But let's just stay within this one story for now. We're gonna open it up too much. So in this story and the way the Radziner is explaining it is, again, just to explain Shlomo here. What does he mean that Pinchas did? That they were doing something that was right, but that was wrong, and Pinchas was doing something wrong, but that was right. What's going on? So the Radziner is saying, if they would have consummated this marriage, they would have totally lost touch with themselves. It would have made them break that connection with the Kusta de Chiyusa. He says, when Hashem would bring them back by Tchias HaMeisim, he would have to make a 2.0. They wouldn't be able to keep that line of connectivity. They went off the deep end with their kavanas, even though they were right on paper, but it wasn't right in terms of the real story of who they truly are. That's why it would have caused damage to the rest of Am Yisrael. That's why it would have caused damage. It would have created a whole energy of, and that's why this is such high stuff. It's so amazing how it comes right after the story with the talis. This is such a fine distinction, and yet it's really a distinction between life and death. And so unbelievably, Lefizeh, Pinchas, by killing them, saved their life. He saved them that their Tchias HaMeisim would still be the real them.
Can you say that one more time?
Because they went so far. They went so far with their abstracted understanding of soulmate. You know, it's similar. You know what it's similar to in Chumash is Yosef and the daughter and Potiphar's wife, right? And she said to him, Rashi brings it, that she showed him that according to the stars, we're meant to be married. And in fact, he married her daughter. There was something to what she was saying. There was something to what she was saying. But it wasn't real. It wasn't right because it wasn't real. There's I could figure out, Gewalt, of course, Alpi Kabbalah and Hasidus, it's such a big deal to wake up every night Chatzos and learn Kabbalah and learn halacha and daven nates every day and so on. But if a person jumps to that place without earning it, without living it, they're just heard that this is the highest way, and so they just there's a place. And again, it's a subtle thing because sometimes jumping to a higher place is great. Sometimes it's very good for you. It's very complicated. You have to daven so much and talk with our friends and with our rabbis and so on, and try and figure out what's really right for us in our life. But sometimes making that jump you totally lose yourself. You really lose yourself. You may know people like this who have jumped too far into things. Some people, mamish, become suicidal or literally lose their mind. Mamish, I know some people who it's very real. People really lose themselves, like mamish lose themselves. But from Sam Hamavis, but like that the Torah, Rashi says, the Gemara says, how do you make sure that your learning of Torah will be life-giving and not a poison? It says, if you learn it right-handedly, and it will be a poison if you learn it left-handed. What does it mean, right-handed and left-handed? It means, Rashi says, when you're learning right-handedly, you're trudim lada'at soda. You're really caring and bothered to know the secret of the Torah, to really understand it. You're putting your whole self into it. You know, in a certain way, it comes down to the hokey pokey. You got to put your whole self in. If it's left-handed, it's not really me. I'm somewhere else. And I'm learning. I could be learning brilliantly. I could be blowing everyone's mind. But it's left-handed. And this is something you have to cry a million tears. Like, there's levels upon levels of how to really be in it, how to really be honest, how to really be authentic, how to really be living it.
Rabbi Akiva, those are the 4 outcomes of entering the paradise.
Yes, even those great people,
some
right?
People die, some people go crazy, some people have the psycho-spiritual fortitude to come out intact because they entered whole and it was real. It was
Right.
like
Yes.
And some people just never get married.
Right.
Just single forever. You got a single to this.
Just no one at this table. So any case, yes, that's a great example. It's a great example. The 4 who went into Pardes, right? It's a great example that you touch something higher. Are you able to come out b'shalom? I named my son Akiva Shalom. Wow. That's Akiva Nichnas b'shalom v'yatza b'shalom. This ability to have that wholeness and serenity, presence, right? So what was going on with Zimri and Cosby was they were jumping to a higher level and losing themselves to the point where they were going to break that kusta diffusa. They would lose that thread of connectivity with their past because they're going to this perfect ultimate thing, but that they weren't really ready for. That wasn't really true for them. It wasn't really where they were holding. So that's this idea that Pinchas, by killing them, incredibly paradoxically, wildly, and there's like, don't try this at home. Pinchas, by killing them, saved their life because he kept it real for them so that when they'll have a Tchias HaMesim, Hashem won't have to remake them. If they would have gone that far, the Radziner says, they would have had to be Zimri 2.0. It wouldn't have been able to be, would have snapped. If you call a person like go crazy, they snap. That snap of the thread of connectivity back to their whole life snaps. It's unbelievably scary. And they would have lost. So Pinchas, by killing them, made sure that they wouldn't snap, made sure that they would stay connected to who they are. It's wild. Now this is what we do have, and we've spoken about this once, about that story with Rav Meir Abisera, when he came out of the penthouse to meet this guy. He had this friend who became wildly wealthy overnight, which is also something similar to this idea. He became wildly wealthy overnight, and it was weird. Like all his friends were like, "Oh, come on, can't you get me a car? What, 20 grand? What's 20 grand for you? It's just 20 grand. You've got millions." This guy he won the lottery, whatever it was. He made like $100 million in overnight. And Rav Meir Becerra, when he went to visit him, and they came to the penthouse of this hotel where he was living, and when the elevator door opened, he right away on the snap he pounced on him and started beating him up. And everyone said, "Man, what are you doing?" And the guy on the floor said, No, don't stop. You're saving me. You're helping me remember who I am. You're treating me like a person, right? He needed someone to treat him badly a little bit, like a slap in the face, to remember who he is. It's not as heavy duty as killing, But you could see he was saving his life. He was helping him stay real. He was helping him keep it together. He was helping the Kusta de Chiyusta. He was being a little Eliyahu Navi, holding him together. Right?
Eliyahu, Pinchas was Eliyahu?
Yes.
The same neshama?
Yes, yes.
Eliyahu is like it's the quintessential Mevaser. And I said like a few
Exactly.
also Basar and Mevaser, Besoros.
Yes.
Besoros Tovos, Basar, like Bashal Nimshal Basar Mevaser.
Keeps you in the flesh.
It's like if it's not real, it's not going to be right?
It has to be in the flesh.
The Hachraza
Mashiach in the flesh.
Yeah, and Mumim also wounds also of the flesh. Right? Wounds are also like the embodied state.
Your body keeps the score. The body holding the energies. The traumas and so. Yeah.
Speaking of wounds, Moshe Rabbeinu was also connected with the string of neshamas of
Yes.
Pinchas and Noah.
Yes.
And Moshe also, like, he burned his tongue when he was little, and then everything that he was saying, it was like,
It was a mum.
yeah.
Yeah. There are these things that seem insurmountable, right? Yeah, we're all carrying these things. Yeah. Yeah. No. What the trouble with 2.0 is when you have to scrap with 1.0 and come with a different Leibish. Then it's a problem, right? That's the idea, right? That when we want to keep it so that I become the 2.0, that it's the same me. What's that? But you do that process. You doing it. There's something that's within you. It's not that Hashem. It's not that you get. And it's not what Pinchas was doing here and what was happening with that wealthy guy, where you forget who you are, you lose your sense of who you are, and you need someone to slap you back into life. You need right? So this is a whole nother level of love. It's love. It's love to clobber that guy. It's love. It's bris shalom. It's the most wonderful thing in the world. Sometimes
it's like the number one thing celebrities say when they become famous, wealthy, and like they don't, they've lost themselves.
They're losing
That's
themselves. Right. And so
come to drugs and the alcohol and the self-destruction.
If they could just have that one friend who can put in the right exact kind of violence, boom, just say, yeah.
You have to do surgery to save the life.
Surgery, gorgeous, beautiful.
Make a wound to save.
You make a wound, mamish. Yeah.
Also, this is making me, rethink, like Shalom Aleichem, like the whole, like as we're entering like Friday night through that, like such a high time, and we start like Shalom Aleichem, Boachem, Tzeichem, like kind of like let us come in peace and go in peace, like stay who we are and receive, like kind of like the way we move through Pardes and not lose our mind. We can like move through Shabbos and stay who we are, but just take from it in this way.
Beautiful.
To be able to keep on doing it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. We need to not be, a whole different person on Shabbos and then like lose it and be a completely different person during the week. Mamish, that's gewaldig.
Also, I was gonna add a comment. So what we're here for in this Tikkun Haolam, we're here to transform darkness to light. So I like what you're saying about not scrapping the original version because each person has this amount of transforming that they signed up to do, and that's what we're here to do. So you can't just like pull that away from someone. Like everyone wants to participate in this transformation.
Right.
So
exactly. It's like he was preserving their ability to do that transformation. They were trying to jump out of the black into the white instead of transforming the darkness into the light. Exactly. And he was helping them to remain real about what it's really about, right?
There used to be this children's program that my kids watched a long time ago. It was called That's So Raven. And so this teenager Raven, she had gift of sight, but she would only see like one little slice of the future. And then she would imagine oh my gosh, it's going to be like this. And she would just mess everything up. And then when the moment came, she would see how her assumptions had been so wrong and just messed everything up. Every episode was like this. So it kind of shows the danger of just having a
In the
little
future.
piece and not seeing the whole picture and just acting on that one little piece. You know, it
Beautiful.
was very creative.
That's a fascinating plot for a TV show. I never even heard of it. I missed it completely. Very cool, because that's another way of understanding what was going on with Pinchas and Zimri also. That Zimri and Cosby was that they saw something that was real, but it was only a tiny thing. It was not the whole Gewalt. Serious Torah. Then Shlomo switches gears again over here. The next page, 244. He switches gears again. And to talking about parents and children. He says, "B'Shabbos Achrona Hazu Karali Mashu Shemamash Afach et Nishpati." That this last Shabbos something happened that totally turned my soul over. Haiti b'Malona Merkaz. I was in the Central Hotel. B'Shabbos Hayev Shalot Amalit. On Shabbos you can't take the elevator. Vani Holech Liad Hamadrigot. So I'm walking by next to the stairwell. Lamata. I see a nice lady with a little baby. And up the stairs, Bala seems to be her husband. Ish Chasid Haya, who was a Chasid. Veyalda bat shalosh, and a little girl, 3 years old, metukamit vash, sweeter than honey. Mashiach comes, he'll just go straight and kiss her. Lo hemati lemare enai. I couldn't believe my eyes. This father who makeh et hayada makot retzach, his mom is whacking, hitting her like murderously. Mamash lo yecholti odaber. So Shlomo's seeing this, right? I couldn't speak. You know, this is one of the things of Shlomo that people were used to, the sweet, accepting Shlomo. But when he would see something like this, like watch out, right? he would be outraged. Shlomo had a really strong sense of outrage. And I asked the lady, what's he doing to your daughter? The lady says, she's not acting right. In Abba Kazeh, so Shlomo says, if the father like that, who could ever act right? Meanwhile, the father's coming down like a king. Obviously, he didn't say good Shabbos to me, right? And he loma speak that I'm not from enough for him. And he said, I say, so Shlomo, and this is like classic Shlomo, what he says to the guy. Says, sir, and I'm just amazed by one thing. Instead of hitting your child, you should have just broken Shabbos instead of hitting her. Be less of an avera if you do that, right? Shlomo. You know, why don't you just like light up a cigarette, man? You know? It's because he's getting at this value system that it's like the separation of church and state. You know, like, oh, I'm religious, hitting my kid. That's not part of it. That's It's
aggression.
Yeah. Hamakeh yeled ze retzach mamish. Hitting a child, this is mamish murder. Lo tirtzach, don't commit murder. If a person breaks Shabbos, they're breaking Shabbos just once. We hope they'll do tshuva, Shabbos haba u'shmor, maybe next Shabbos will keep. If you're hitting your daughter, you're distancing her from Hashem. So the father made himself as if he didn't hear me. Someone really did say this to him, right? Imam said no. Excuse me, the father then he didn't hear. Meantime, I looked at his wife. She's crying. She said to me, all these years I'm trying to explain this to him. He doesn't hear me. What's his problem? הבעיה שלו שהוא חושב שזה מותר. He thinks it's okay. Like in his mind, it's okay. נגיד שזה מותר. He says, but even if we would say it's okay, אבל איך אתה מכה ילד? But how could you? How could you? נניח שמותר לכעוס. Let's say you're allowed to get angry. But how could you be angry? אבל איך אתה כועס על אשתך? How could you be angry at your wife? איך אתה כועס? How could you allow yourself to be angry? Here, I want to add in something that how does it happen that a person thinks it's mutter? Most of the time, I would argue most of the time, it's because that's what they saw in their family growing up. That's what they saw. They said it's an intergenerational thing. And most of these intergenerational, you can call them pekalach, burdens that are passed down from generation to generation. Pegalach. These things, they literally go back to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. It's literally going back to this brokenness. And so this only makes what Rav Shlomo is saying that much stronger. And this is what we'll learn this next little bit and we'll finish, is we do have the strength to stand up against all of those intergenerational heavy things that we're carrying. We have the strength. I'm saying this to strengthen myself also. I see it in myself as a father in my family. Baruch Hashem, it's not this, but there are other things that there are distance. There's distance that I feel that I'm from the distance of my father and my grandfather and my great grandfather, many distant fathers in my family going way back. Sorry, I don't be too personal over here, but yeah. Oh, it's amazing what you say. You know, I heard that from someone who heard it from Rav Gamliel Rabinovich. Did I tell you this in Shir once? Rav Gamliel Rabinovich right now is the Rosh Yeshiva of the Kabbalistic Yeshiva of Yerushalayim. He is like the top Ashkenazi Mekubal. And probably Rav Gamliel Rabinovich, he's huge. He said, if the Torah would be given today, he said this to someone I know. If the Torah would be, you heard this once before, Tzvi? He said, if the Torah would be given today, it wouldn't say Kabed es avicha vesimecha. It would say Kabed es bincha vesvitecha.
That's totally
Mamish, right? Rav Gamliel said this. Rav Gamliel said this. Thank God we have a tzaddik in our generation, not far from here. He lives in Yerushalayim. You can see him. He gives shiurim every week. You can go for him for brachas and so on. Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. I think so. I don't know. I don't actually know, but you can find out. You can find out. What's that? Sorry? If the Torah is given today, it wouldn't say honor your father and your mother. It would say honor your son and daughter.
But and your father and mother.
Oh, he just said it, Mamish, just the other way, right? Yeah, it's beyond.
Same thing. It's just like coming from a different angle.
Wow, yeah.
It's like the cycle.
The Heshiv of us, Mamish, and particularly, but I think it's particularly, he said it about our generation, and there's something, kids today, what's going on right now. It's a topic on and of itself, but people, there's such sensitivity. Time l'chaim should be zeicha to be those of us who are parents to be good parents, and not yet to be parents. Korban. So Mamish. So the outrage. Reb Shlomo wants to, and this is part of the thing. And this he's moving into this from Pinchas, right? To not lose yourself in jumping up and out, and to not lose yourself the completely other direction, going dark into the heavy place, and feeling that it's mutter, feeling like, well, that's all I know, this is how families work, this is how it is. the healing of both of these two extremes is a healthy sense of outrage. Shlomo wants to fan our outrage. He wants us to have a nice fire going of outrage. Okay? The one extreme of Zimri jumping out of his lived experience to this this soulmate that was totally not where he was holding. And that's the height. And the dark is to go down and feel like, well, it's okay for me to hit my kids. That's all I know. My parents hit me and their parents hit them. And so, and right. And for both of these things, we need a healthy sense of outrage. Like Rabbi Meir, who jumped that rich guy because he had an outrage, saw something in him, said, this guy needs a good beating, right? And again, and we have to also like, I go with this ancient, with this mamish 100-year-old, hundreds of years old, bad parenting energy. I have to break that. I have to be outraged with it. How could I? There's a person, there's a soul over here. How can I let myself be distant like that? I gotta be there, right? Gewalt, it's hard. He says, Atem Yodim, and here he's speaking about Elul, and Kanira, he gave this Torah over in Elul. We'll just do this next little paragraph here. Oh, maybe we'll go all the way to the end because we're right up the end. Atem Yodim, he says, you know, Kol Shanani Rash Shevi Mutar Asr. I'm always thinking, is it permitted or forbidden, right? Like just, you know, mathematics. B'chodesh Elul, and Elul, I'm trying to do tshuva, and Ilocha Shevi Mutar Asr. It's not about, right? A lot of times people go to Elul and they start thinking mathematically. They start thinking how, you know, making lists and things, and it's not a bad thing, but he's saying the essence of tshuva isn't that. Ko'evli, it's gonna hurt. There's gotta be a bit of an outrage. Ko'evli shani asiti et zeh. How could I have done it? How could I? That's what has to. That's what has to be the fire of tshuva. How could I? Ko'evli alev. My heart hurts. Lo bigla shezeh asur. Not because it's officially wrong, but because how could I? He wants us to have the outrage on our own selves, on society, etc. Bigla she'ech yacholti lasot davar kazeh. How could I have dared to do such a thing?
You hear the continuity of self there also, where it's not like that wasn't me. There's
Right.
there's no hebdel, there's no separation. It's not like, well, this is me 2.0.
Right.
How could it be
Right.
me?
Yes.
I'm still me.
Yes.
And he's
Yes.
implicit that there's still the continuity of self there.
100%.
Well,
100%. And you're just digging deeper to this part of you that was watching yourself do it, this narrator, this kustadichiyus, this inner place that we have all the strength in the world against hundreds of years of pekalach and pegalach and burdens that you can put. You're stronger than all of that. That's the holy chutzpah. How could I do such a thing? The shofar is the sound of saying Yechi, may long live the King Hashem. B'chodesh Elul im Yisrael bocheh, eich asinu et egel hazav. On Chodesh Elul, Am Yisrael is all crying. They're just saying, how could we have built that golden calf? Eich azavnu de Kodesh Baruch Hu. How could we have left Hashem? Ko'ev le'olev, my heart hurts. Ko'ev le'olev, my heart hurts. Lo shani omer asidi devar lo tov, b'glas karati b'sefer shezeh asur. You don't say, oh, it was wrong. Why? The book says it's wrong, right? That's not what tshuva is about, because the book says it's wrong. Gewalt zeshitchi. Gewalt is that superficial. Rosh Hashanah nachnu omrim ki ata Elokim emes. You Hashem are true. Ha'ikar hu shetzrichim liot amiti mamash. You got to be so true. Omek omek left from the depths of the depths of the depths of the heart. Uv'chenim avarech latanu that kol am Yisrael b'yachad. She's kept Hamli to Rebbe. We should be zeicher one time to really wake up. Gewalt Ribono Shel Olam makra Am Yisrael. Hashem, what is going on to Am Yisrael? Makorel atzenu akdosh. What's going on with our holy land? And this is heavy stuff because we're exhausted from this. We have to wake up again and again and keep crying to Hashem. Gewalt eich ze ko'ev. Gewalt is a hurt. Eich ze ko'ev. Ribono Shel Olam eich ata marsheh davar kazeh. We are allowed and we need to be also outraged to Shemayim. How could this be? Eicha. Nekaveh shebe'ez Hashem b'Rosh Hashanah yeh ruach chadasha. We hope The Bezos Hashem Rosh Hashanah, there'll be a new ruach. I'll take off the stone heart and I'll replace it with a flesh heart. Basar. Truly to a real Yeshua. And we might as well just do this last piece here. So this is Shlomo's mamish. I really feel Shlomo's heart and soul coming right out of this last little piece. Hanavi omer hinei min ba'im nu Hashem Elokim v'shlachti ra'av ba'aretz lo ra'av l'lechem v'lo tzam l'mayim ki lishmat v'Hashem. Hashem says, I'm going to send a famine into the world, not for bread, not for water, but to hear the words of Hashem. Hanavi medaber al ador shelanu. The Navi is talking to our generation. Going around the world. You'll see Shem Elam lo yarav kazel devar Hashem. There is never ever such a desire, such a famine for Hashem. And this is something that Rabbi Nachman also speaks about. Torah Ayin Aleph 71 in the second section of the Likutei Moharan. He says, even though the generations are going down and down since Har Sinai, Yeridas Adoros, says, but our desire for Hashem is going up and up. And never has a generation wanted God like us. Ever. It's getting stronger and stronger. Mamish. This is unbelievable. And Shlomo felt this, Shlomo knew this. And listen to what he says. This is so powerful. This is another kind of an outrage. In Tifkosh Mishu, if you meet someone who says, I'm hungry for bread, I'm thirsty for water, Al Tamino, don't believe him. He's just embarrassed to say how much he's hungry for the one and only one, the eternal one. Atem v'ani pokshim abenashim. This is really big for Eretz Yisrael. You and I meet many people. We talk to them about Yiddishkeit. Sometimes they make themselves as if they don't care. Al ta'aminu lahem. Shlomo says, don't believe them. Someone says, I'm not so interested with all this Jewish stuff. Shlomo says, don't believe them. Don't believe them. So strong. So strong. The Gimel Tammuz is coming. Just mamish. Don't believe them. The Rebbe never left. What? No Jew is left behind. What a Yiddish soul is. Al taminu lahem. L'olam al taminu. Don't you ever believe them. Keep it pinimiyusam, the depths of them, of who they are. And bochim, they are crying and longing. They don't have words for it. The religious words sound all wrong to them, but what they're longing for the inside is mamish Hashem. Hashem yiftach lam to live. They're wanting so badly for Hashem to open their heart. Im tesapru l'mishu al Shabbos kodesh al tefillah limud Torah v'yomarni lo manyan. He talks to me about Shabbos, about tefillah, Torah. They say, I'm not interested. Tomru lo shalav amar Navi. Say to him that it's about him that the Navi said 3,000 years ago. Lo rav alechem v'lo tzam l'mayim. It's not a famine for bread or for water. Kim lishmos divrei Hashem. There's a famine out there. And I know you're hungry. So it's beyond, so beyond. So this is how he ends off this piece with it, which is about chesed, because the deepest chesed, and we learned so much about this, about hearing. The deepest chesed is to give someone their Yiddishkeit, and to hear and to know that they're really longing for it, all of us. Somehow Hashem should bless us to, somehow in small ways, in big ways, and all the in-between ways, to be there for all the Jews, particularly in Eretz Yisrael and in the whole world, to really not believe that they're not interested, to really give it over. Hashem should help us to have the kelim, to know how, to know when, to know where. Time. Bam 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 bam. Rav lelechem v'lo vaytzam alemayim yamim ba'ivneu Hashem v'yislachti Rav Arezoi Rav lelechem v'lo vaytzam alemayim Oh, l'chaim, Shabbat Tov, Chaydes, good Chaydes. Good to see you, Hannah. L'chaim. Okay, Leach, I'm gonna end the meeting here. Yeah. Yeah.
And for some reason, we did it at a high school, or but we couldn't get it. For some reason, it ended up in a disco. And afterwards, it was so. But it was a good crowd. And we're leaving. I'm walking down the steps outside. And there's a cop that's got some guy on the stairs facing down like this. And we don't know what's going on. Someone immediately yells, "You can't do," to the cop, yells, screaming at the cop, "You can't do this." He was like, the cop stop. He was like, "You can't do this." Mommy's having it out. Non-stop.
Unbelievable.
It's so easy, okay, of course, we need to look at ourselves and see what ourselves when we're doing that. But how do you tell someone else when you see one doing from either side?
How do you do it?
That's really hard, especially someone you're equal to.
Lo pashut. This tochacha, the Gemara says, yeah, it's really not simple. I don't know. We have to dive in so much.
Really hard, yeah. And it's like, who am I? Like, because I'm not perfect. Maybe in this next moment I'll be doing that. It's like,
Mamash lo pashut.
but so yeah, that's.
When you see where the people come from, they like putting things up there in town, and it's not like that. So,
Yeah.
She's there,
Lo pashut, yeah. Mamash lo pashut.
So yeah, okay.
I don't know how to answer. Yeah. All right. Good Chaydish, good to see you. I'm gonna end the thing. Gotta call to